A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to the strategy session related to the governance component of your syllabus. Here we are going to discuss basically how you should be approaching the governance part of your syllabus. In this discussion, we will look at what are the specific no aspects of the syllabus, which aspects of the syllabus is to be covered, how, what kind of questions have been asked in UPSC, and based on that particular part we are going to devise a strategy as to how we should pursue the governance component of the syllabus. uh, what I would also like to know that when it comes to the polity part, last time when we met, we took up the polity aspect of it. We discussed the polity component. We understood what were the basic requirements of the polity component, and accordingly, in the last approximately now almost 20 to 25 days, you have completed the polity component of it. So I hope that uh, by looking at whatever exercises we have done, those exercises have contributed to better understanding of your polity component, and you now understand what exactly is the requirement of the syllabus of no UPSC, what and how that no that is asked. All of this is basically something which has been no you have been able to do that. Okay, so let us, without any delay, start our discussion with the governance component of it. First of all, starting with the syllabus part, that is, what exactly is the syllabus of the governance component. Now remember that yes, this is the syllabus. We are going to discuss this. You no you already know about it. It is not that you don't know about it, you already know about it as well. But the thing is that we are we are just taking up a clarification related to it as to what aspects are to be covered, and this slide has been included so that whatever I'm about to discuss in the next slides, you get a better understanding of that part as well. Okay, so if you look at the syllabus here, the syllabus basically includes components such as, first of all, you will see that there is a government policy related part of your syllabus. That means what are the specific issues related to policy design as well as policy implementation. Okay, what are the various issues arising out of the policy design as well as policy implementation? As you can see, government policies and interventions for development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. So what you what you already know, and what I'm basically talking about is that you should know what is the syllabus. And the syllabus says, first of all, it talks about policies. So what is what are the questions that can be expected from this particular component? The questions that can be expected from this component is that you may be asked questions related to different policies and programs of the government, and you may also be asked questions related to the no to the different you can say issues, whether it is designs of certain policies, whether it is about implementation of those policies. What are the issues that that administration faces? That is basically that is something which can be asked. Okay, so in this particular part, what is the expected questions? Government policies, government policies design and implementation issue. Design and implementation issue. Okay, this is the component that we are basic component of your syllabus that we are discussing. And what are the areas where you can expect questions to be asked? So areas are, first of all, different policy interventions. Policy intervention. Meaning there can be some questions related to the different policies and programs that has been no either previously initiated by the government or that has been currently initiated by the government. Okay, so here you can get questions related to previous policies, previous policies, and along with it you can also get questions related to the current new policies. Okay, current new policy. You can also get questions related to the current or the new policies that the government has initiated, maybe in the last financial year or the current financial year. You can get questions related to that as well. Okay, suppose you are getting a question related to previous policies. Further, two things have to be taken into consideration. What are those? First of all, we have to look at milestones. We have to do what? We have to look at milestones. Meaning, suppose there are some policies of the government, and those policies of the government has done what? Those policies of the government has completed maybe 10 years. It has completed maybe 15 years, or maybe it has completed 5 years, and for that very reason such policies have been in news. Okay, so that is basically what milestones are. And whenever there is any important policy of the government, any flagship programs, remember, another thing that has to be understood is flagship programs. If we are talking about those policies which have been previously taken up by the government, UPSC will not ask any or no, any policy which the government has initiated. No, UPSC would primarily focus on the flagship programs of the government. Okay, flagship programs meaning the most important policies, the most important programs that the government has initiated. Okay, so that would be, that would be something that you have to focus upon. All policies which are no all policies which are creating milestones, always you will be reading about those policies. Those policies would be news. There would be newspaper articles, discussions related to the policies, and primarily all such discussion would be analytical. It would be, remember, analytical. Whenever previous policies are being asked, they will always do what? They will always cover the analytical aspect. So they will not ask you facts related to the policy. They would always ask you that dimension of the policy which is what? Which is the analysis of it. Meaning that what have been the achievements, what have been the problems, whether those policies have succeeded or those policies have not succeeded. If it has succeeded, what are the reasons for its success? If it has not succeeded, what are the problems related to it? That is the analysis part of it. That is the analytical part of it. Okay, so that is something which you need to cover when it comes to previous policies. Okay, I am highlighting, summarizing my discussion related to this. First of all, as I have mentioned, that whenever we talk about policy design and implementation, policies, no, and design and implementation issue, you have to look at it from this perspective, that there can be questions which could be related to specific policy interventions, which policies have been taken up by the government, and in that also there can be further two types of questions or two dimensions that the question could cover. First of all, the dimension is related to previous policies, and then there is the current or the new policy that is there. Okay, previous policies, what has to be focused upon? Of course, there are so many policies that the government has initiated. Okay, you will find that there are approximately 64 to 65 policies which the current government considers the most important of all policies. Okay, so in that sense, we cannot read about all these policies and we cannot remember, analyze all of these. So in that case, what are we supposed to do? What is the way out? How do we address this particular part of the syllabus? We address it in very simple terms. We address it very simply, which is, we what policies have achieved some major milestones. So if there has been some major developments related to some policies, that is basically what you have to focus on. So if there is a policy, suppose hypothetically, let's take an example. We all know that the government of India has initiated and completed certain amendments related to the MG Narega law, and they have come up with a new law. They have come up with a new law for it. Now, they have renamed the law. They have also made some very important changes to what the MG Narega policy was. Now, this is a milestone, meaning some amendment, some very important changes, and hence it has to be treated as a milestone. And now MG Narega is important. So, what you are supposed to do is, you are supposed to know everything about the MG Narega law, starting with the historical factors. That means, when was the law initiated? What was the objectives? What were the problems? If there were some reforms that was taken up, what were those reforms? And when it comes to the new law, what are the positives and the challenges related to the new law? Okay, so all this becomes important because of a major milestone, meaning in this case some changes that the government made. Similarly, all such policies of the government, you will find that all such policies, for whatever reasons, if it is in news, maybe because it has completed some number of years of its implementation, maybe because of the government laws, maybe because of some other reasons, you will have to do what? You will have to look at each and every aspect of the policy. How has it been implemented? The analysis part of it, because such policies have completed some time period, maybe 2 3 years. So the analysis part of it, whether it is some positives, certain negatives that has been that has been left because of that policy, all of this is what you are going to. Okay, so you will find that every year some 5 to 6 policies would be in news because of it. Okay, some 5 to 6 policies would be in news because of it. So you have to do what? You have to cover all these policies. Clear? Next, coming to the current or the new policy. Now, what are we supposed to know about these policies? There are two things that we have to know about these policies. First of all, we have to know about the basic facts. basic facts and purpose. Basic facts and purpose. Basic facts and purpose. Okay. So when the government has initiated a policy, what is the facts related to that policy? That is, what does the government no, what are the specific points, and what is the no, what the government feels? Why does the government want to do what? Why does the government want to achieve those? No, what is the reason why they have enacted that? No, all of this is what you are supposed to know. And then comes the second part of it, which is the analytical part. Analytical part. Again, analytical part meaning whenever the government will initiate any specific policy, there will always be a discussion related to what could be the positives and negatives related to that policy. Okay, though the policy has not yet been implemented, but there would still be there would be still some commentary, some analysis related to how the policy no has been implemented, or for sorry how the policy is going to be implemented, and what are the pros and cons related to it. That discussion is something which you will normally see. Okay, so what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to get to know about it. Clear? So annually there will not be more than two or maximum three policies which are important policies being initiated by the government. ठीक है, ऐसा जनरली नहीं होता है. हाँ, अगर गवर्नमेंट चेंज होती है, ठीक है, सपोज देयर इज अ चेंज ऑफ नो द गवर्नमेंट, व्हेनेवर अ न्यू गवर्नमेंट इज फॉर्म, तब उसमें कुछ मेजर चेंजेस आपको नजर आएंगे, बट अदरवाइज मोर और लेस अदरवाइज मोर और लेस इट वुड रिमेन द सेम. तो ये आपको पॉलिसी इंटरवेंशंस में ये एस्पेक्ट कवर करना है. इंपॉर्टेंट बात क्या है? इंपॉर्टेंट बात ये है दैट दिस इज नॉट समथिंग विच यू विल फाइंड नो इन क्लास नोट्स. ठीक है, पॉलिसीज, हर पॉलिसीज को क्लास में डिस्कस करना और उसके प्रोज कॉन्स को डिस्कस करना, दिस इज नॉट समथिंग विच इज टेकन अप इन क्लासरूम डिस्कशन. So this is something which is primarily your internet plus current affairs discussion. ठीक है, ये जो part है, this is primarily to be covered from where? It is primarily to be covered from current affairs plus your usage of your internet. Okay, this is how you cover this. Okay, तो ये चीज आपको ध्यान में रखना है. Sir, can you showcase in what way we need to cover a policy? Yes, exactly, Rahul. That is what I am discussing. देखो, when you say can you showcase, so I took an example here. What was the example? I took an example here where I was talking about the MG Narega law. The MG Narega. Why MG Narega why MG Narega was in news? MG Narega was in news because of what? Because the government has passed a new law which replaces the original which replaces the original MG Narega. Okay, so this was the reason why it was in news. Secondly, because it was in news, therefore it is important. Because it was in news, therefore it is now important. So what are we supposed to do now? Now what we are supposed to do is we are now going to know each and everything about the MG Narega, starting with the historical part of it. So we will start with what? We will start with the history of it. And the history of it meaning what? The history of it meaning what? History does not mean that we start from 1950. No. History of it meaning we start with the basic understanding of when was the law initiated and what was the basic provisions. We start with the basic provisions part. Okay? Basic provisions part. ठीक है? इसके साथ साथ हमें क्या पता होना चाहिए? इसके साथ साथ हमें यह भी पता होना चाहिए कि क्योंकि ये गवर्नेंस और पॉलिटी से रिलेटेड होता है, तो आप ये भी देखोगे a lot of times what happens is that a law initiated for welfare purposes or for any such purposes, they fulfill certain constitutional provisions. That means they are in a way an implementation of certain provisions of the constitution. So we should be aware about it. Like here, if we look at the constitutional provisions, तो आप देखोगे कि कुछ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजंस हैं जो हमारे डीपीएसपी का पार्ट है, डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी, है ना, डीपीएसपी का पार्ट है। और इन डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ स्टेट पॉलिसी में आपको नजर आएगा कि कुछ ऐसे प्रोविजंस हैं जो उन पर्पसेस को अचीव करना चाहते हैं जो एमजी नरेगा भी अचीव करना चाहता है। जैसे if you look at article 38 of the Indian Constitution, so article 38, especially article 38A, emphasizes on what? It emphasizes on the very value of justice, है ना? So MG Narega was with an objective of doing what? MG Narega was with an objective of providing economic and social justice. Clear? Similarly, what does it do? Right to work. It creates what? It creates right to work. तो आपको ये पता होना चाहिए कुछ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजंस। उसके बाद अब हम आ जाते हैं एनालिसिस part. Now in this analysis part, what are you supposed to know? In this analysis part, you are supposed to know the pros and cons, or more appropriately the achievements and the problems or challenges part. The achievements and the challenges part. ठीक है, ये आपको पता होना चाहिए कि ओके, व्हाट वेर द अचीवमेंट्स ऑफ एमजी नरेगा, what are the problems that were there with respect to implementation of MG नरेगा, ये आपको पता होना चाहिए। ठीक है, अब इसके अलावा अब क्या हुआ? नाउ यू आर ऑल्सो सपोज टू नो अबाउट व्हाट? अ कंपैरिजन विद द न्यू लॉ, a comparison. So you are supposed to also know about what was the previous provisions in comparison to what is the new provision, and you are also supposed to know about the analysis of it. Analysis meaning what? Again, what could be the what could be the positives and what could be the challenges? What could be the positives and what could be the positives and what could be the challenges? क्योंकि इस लॉ को हमने इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं किया है अभी तक, मतलब हमारे पास डेटा नहीं है कि हम ये बता सके कि क्या पॉजिटिव्स हैं और क्या चैलेंजेस हैं। ये डेटा हमारे पास नहीं है, और क्योंकि ये डेटा हमारे पास नहीं है, दैट इज द रीजन व्हाई वी कैन नॉट पॉइंट आउट टू द अचीवमेंट्स पार्ट, है ना। इसीलिए पॉजिटिव्स क्या है और चैलेंजेस क्या है ये हमें पता होना चाहिए. क्लियर? दिस इज हाउ यू रीड अबाउट द डिफरेंट पॉलिसीज एंड प्रोग्राम्स. अब ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है कि हर पॉलिसी के लिए कुछ रिप्लेसमेंट ही लाया गया है. ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है, which means that not always you are supposed to or you are likely to take a comparison or something like that. Okay? But this is the structure that you are supposed to follow related to and every policy and program. ठीक है? राहुल, is this understood? सोनी, दैट इज व्हाट आई एम डूइंग. ये जो स्ट्रैटेजी सेशन है ना, ये स्ट्रैटेजी सेशन आपके लिए इसी वजह से है ताकि आपको समझ में आ सके कि गवर्नेंस एज अ टॉपिक, हाउ यू आर सपोज टू अप्रोच इट. यस, एनी क्वेश्चंस टिल दिस पॉइंट? एनीवन having any questions till this particular point? Anyone who would like to ask any questions till this point? No questions? Okay. So let us move now. So, and we have seen also how you are supposed to prepare for it. ये भी हमने देख लिया. Current affairs, internet. You are going to use what you are going to use here. You are going to use here the no the different magazines, etc. that you read about. Newspaper and the newspaper analysis is very important in this particular part. Governance is not a static, it is a very dynamic kind of a topic. Okay, it's a very dynamic kind of a topic. It's not a static topic. And because it is not a dynamic kind of a it's not a static topic, इसीलिए आप जनरली किसी स्पेसिफिक बुक्स वगैरह से गवर्नेंस नहीं पढ़ सकते. आप कुछ टॉपिक्स हैं जिनको आप बुक्स वगैरह से पढ़ सकते हो, बट अदरवाइज मोर इम्पॉर्टेंटली यू आर सपोज टू बिल्ड ऑन दोज टॉपिक्स. एंड हाउ आर यू गोइंग टू बिल्ड ऑन दोज टॉपिक्स? You can build on those topics only and only through the dynamic element, that is newspapers, internet, current. This is how you are going to. That don't we need to mug facts? देखो, एक चीज ध्यान रखो. There is a misconception. Misconception क्या है वो समझो. I'm trying to answer Rahul's question. Rahul has asked related to mugging up of facts. Misconception क्या है? Misconception ये है that the mains examination that is there, the mains examination is about analysis and not about facts. ये एक misconception. Why am I calling it to be a misconception? Because analysis cannot be done without data, without facts. ठीक है, एनालिसिस नहीं किया जा सकता है विदाउट डेटा, विदाउट फैक्ट. और इसी वजह से एनालिसिस का पार्ट होता है फैक्ट्स. अगर मान लो आप कोई आंसर लिख रहे हो एंड यू आर सपोज टू सब्सटेंशिएट दैट आंसर, हाउ डू यू सब्सटेंशिएट दैट आंसर? हाउ डू यू सब्सटेंशिएट एन आंसर? You substantiate an answer by presenting data, by presenting facts. Clear? So, remembering facts is important. I'm not sure whether you call it as mugging up of facts, because if you try and remember facts by understanding that becomes easy. तो चीजों को समझने की कोशिश करो, क्योंकि जब आप चीजों को समझने की कोशिश करते हो तब आपको ये समझ में आएगा कि फैक्ट्स आसान हो जाते हैं याद रखना. ठीक है, इट बिकम्स इजी फॉर यू टू रिमेंबर इट. ठीक है, इट बिकम्स इजी फॉर यू टू रिमेंबर इट. अदरवाइज अगर आप चीजों को याद करने की कोशिश, ओके, there is something that I need to convey. See, there is an issue related to the no, there is a technical issue that is there related to electricity here. So there is there is a chance that this session is I'm not able to complete it today. Okay, we are completing to the extent that we can, but if required, if I'm not able to complete it today, then we will be rescheduling this session again. Okay, don't worry about it. Session hoga zarur. Abhi there is a problem related to the electricity here, the studio. That is the reason why for now, no, for now, I am continuing my discussion and I will continue till the point no everything is fine. If not, we will reschedule the session. Anyways, ठीक है, तो एक पार्ट हो गया ये. दूसरी पार्ट, now the second part is design and implementation issue. Design and implementation issue. Design and implementation. ठीक है. Now, when we say design and implementation, what do we mean by this? Okay. What do we mean by design and implementation? What we mean by design and implementation issue is that whenever we talk about policies, in India, most of the times you will find that the policies are unable to achieve the goals that it desires to. है ना, बहुत बार आपने देखा होगा जो गोल्स डिजायर्ड गोल्स होते हैं उन डिजायर्ड गोल्स को शायद अचीव नहीं किया जा सकता, नहीं कर पाते. तो उसके रीजंस क्या है? द रीजंस इज दिस. समटाइम्स देयर आर इश्यूज रिलेटेड टू द पॉलिसी इटसेल्फ. समटाइम देयर आर इश्यूज रिलेटेड टू हाउ द पॉलिसीज आर इम्प्लीमेंटेड. ठीक है, क्या कहा मैंने? Sometimes there is an issue related to policy. Sometimes there is an issue related to what? There is an issue related to how the policy is to be implemented. और ये प्रॉब्लम है डिजाइन या इम्प्लीमेंटेशन. अब देखो, when you take up specific policy, है ना, specific policy, जो स्पेसिफिक पॉलिसीज का डिस्कशन होगा, इस स्पेसिफिक पॉलिसी के डिस्कशन में आपने ये देखा होगा दैट दिस विल बी कवर्ड. ओके, दिस एनालिसिस, इन द एनालिसिस पार्ट, specific policies, what may be the issues related to that policy, what are the reasons why those policies have not succeeded or is not being is not considered a very good policy. Sometimes it is design, sometimes it is implementation. It would be covered here. But otherwise also, here there is one more thing that you have to do, which is related to general discussion. Which is related to what? Which is related to general discussion. Okay, it is related to general discussion. Sometimes the policies etc that are there are some generals, no, there are some general problems related to policy, like lack of decentralization, policies being enacted at the top level, so top down approach. Sometimes sometimes there are other issues as well related to policies, and sometimes there are other issues related to policies also, like at the implementation level there are bureaucratic problems. Red tapeism is a problem. Lack of citizens participation, that becomes a problem. इस तरह के डिस्कशन भी आपको तैयार करके रखना है, क्योंकि ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है दैट एवरी टाइम यू गेट अ क्वेश्चन विच इज पॉलिसी स्पेसिफिक। हो सकता है आपसे एक जनरल क्वेश्चन पूछ दिया जाए, व्हाट आर पॉलिसी, नो व्हाट आर पॉलिसी डिजाइन रिलेटेड इश्यूज और व्हाट आर पॉलिसीज इंप्लीमेंटेशन रिलेटेड इश्यूज। हो सकता है आपसे एक जनरल क्वेश्चन पूछा जाए, तो व्हाट आर द जनरल प्रॉब्लम्स दैट आर देयर, you have to prepare that part as well. Okay, so this is basically how you cover the very first part of your syllabus. Okay, this part of the syllabus that is there, this part of the syllabus, that is how you cover this part of the syllabus. ठीक है, मैं स्ट्रैटेजी सेशन की बात कर रहा हूं, और स्ट्रैटेजी क्या होना चाहिए, एक माइंडसेट, एक देखो आपके how you approach the syllabus of a topic, it should be very clear. There should not be, there should not be any specific problem in this understanding. How you are supposed to do what? How you are supposed to cover the syllabus. Now, how you are supposed to cover the syllabus of the, ये part आपका बिल्कुल clear. ठीक है. Next comes the development process and the development industry, where you have the role of NGOs, the role of self-help groups, the role of various other associations, donor, charity institutions, and other stakeholders. Here, uh, there is a top, no, there is an institution that is missing, which should also be mentioned, which is pressure groups. Okay. Pressure groups. Okay. So, what exactly, how do we cover this particular part of the syllabus? Let us discuss that. Okay. Let us discuss how we cover this part of the syllabus. Okay. Role of different, role of different institutions that are there. Role of different institutions in development. We are now going to do what? We are now going to look at this specific aspect. देखो, first of all, we are talking about self-help group. What is to be covered? What are self-help groups? What is the role of self-help groups? What is the need for self-help groups? Self-help groups and women empowerment. Women empowerment. Case studies of self-help groups. Case study here meaning best practices that are there. Okay. Best practices that are there. And in addition to this, what you are also going to cover, in addition to this, you are also going to cover one important aspect, which is the current events. If there are, any current events, you are supposed to do what? You are supposed to cover that current events as well. Okay, you are supposed to cover those current events as well. Clear? This is what you are supposed to, this is what you are supposed to do. what is the role, no, what are self-help groups, what is the role, why do we need self-help groups? Most importantly, self-help groups and women empowerment, because self-help groups that are there, these self-help groups are considered to be some very important institutions which are responsible for taking up women empowerment. So that part has to be covered. Case studies or best practices. So in India, there are number of self-help groups which have taken up, very good. There are best practices that are there. So we have to basically do what we have to basically cover that part as well. We have to see whether the self-help groups that are there, some very important self-help groups that are there, no, these self-help groups, how these self-help groups have functioned, what are some outstanding initiatives that these self-help groups have taken up. Like you must have heard about self-help groups in the state of Kerala. Kudumshri is there. You must have heard about a self-help group in the state of Bihar, Jivika. You must have heard about Ladakh and a group that is there, called, that group is called Loom, I think it is called. So there are some, very good best practices that are there, and you are supposed to do what? You are supposed to identify those best practices, and you're supposed to take up, no, you're supposed to prepare a list of self-help groups which are basically doing that. And then comes the current events. So if there are, suppose, some current events. Now what do I mean when I say current events? By current events, I mean if there are, suppose, laws, policies related to it, or if there are some other government initiatives, other any other government initiatives related to it. So what if there is, suppose, a report of the Niti Aayog related to it? Suppose reports, there are some reports published. There are, suppose, some reports published related to it. So what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to take up all this particular aspect. You're supposed to take up all these aspects, and you are supposed to prepare for it, because Niti Aayog is an institution which is primarily a, no, it's a think tank of the government. So if the Niti Aayog finds some initiatives that the government has taken up, the Niti Aayog, finds that okay, there is a need to take up some initiatives, so it makes recommendations related to that. And what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to basically, no, you are supposed to take that into consideration. Okay, so role of different institutions in development. Self-help group is the first institution that we have discussed. Then comes NGOs. And again, uh, the same structure has to be followed related to it. Like, you should know what are NGO. You should know why is there a need, or for that matter, what is the role of NGO. You have to take up the analysis part of it. That is, what are the positives, what are the positives and the negatives related to it, and then also the current aspect of it, because there, these institutions that are there, like NGOs, etc., they, these institutions are almost always in news. Now, these institutions that are there, these institutions are almost always in news. Okay, so what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to specifically look at these institutions and, see what are the specific current reasons why they are in news. Like, do you know what is an FCRA? FCRA? Yes, tell me what's an FCRA? Tell me what is an FCRA? Who will tell me what is an FCRA? Foreign Contribution and Regulation Act. Now, this has been in news recently. FCRA, there have been some new amendments. There have been some new amendments to the FCRA. You must have heard about it. There have been some new amendments to the FCRA. You will find that the government has initiated certain changes related to the law. Why? Because the government is trying to further trying to come up with stringent measures, so that if there are any foreign contributions, if there are any foreign contributions, etc., that is there, that the NGOs are basically getting, so these foreign contributions should not be used against the government's development agenda. Okay, so a lot of times, there are foreign institutions which are influencing how the NGOs are functioning, how the NGOs are functioning in India, and they are trying to influence the governance process in India. Now, the government wants to come up with measures to not allow that to happen. So if there are activities which are being taken up by NGOs, if there are activities which are being taken up by NGOs, it should be more of an organic kind. It should be more of an organic kind. It should not be like that NGOs are they are somehow influenced by the by the foreign institutions, etc. So the government is trying to come up with new amendments related to that. Okay, so these things are what no this no tends to remain in news a lot. और जब भी ऐसे institutions news में हैं, जब भी ऐसे institutions news में हैं, for whatever reasons these institutions are in news, you are supposed to do what? You are supposed to follow that very idea very closely. So when you're reading your newspapers, you will find that there is a lot of analysis that comes from this particular aspect. Okay, so you have to be ready with it. Okay, because questions that are initiated, most of the times question are asked on that current ideas by UPSC. Okay, similarly, when we talk about pressure groups, what are you supposed to do? What okay, activities and the current events part is also there. Okay, so this is basically how you prepare for different institutions. This is how you prepare for institution. ठीक है, एनी क्वेश्चंस? देखो, ये चीज ध्यान रखना कि यहां पर अगर आप अपने सिलेबस को आप बहुत क्लोजली देखोगे, तो इट डज टॉक अबाउट रोल ऑफ एनजीओज, it does talk about role of NGOs, it talks about role of self-help groups, pressure groups, but it does not restrict the discussion only to this. It does not restrict the discussion only to this. It also goes ahead and it talks about what? It talks about various groups and associations. It talks about donor groups, it talks about charity institutions, etc. Meaning that when you are reading, when you are reading the syllabus, you have to be very careful of this particular part. Okay, that means we tend to discuss, जब हम क्लासरूम डिस्कशन करते हैं ना, तो हमारा क्लासरूम डिस्कशन किस लिमिट तक रहता है? हमारा क्लासरूम डिस्कशन एनजीओज एनजीओज तक, या फॉर दैट मैटर सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स, प्रेशर ग्रुप्स, यहां तक लिमिटेड रहता है. बट द सिलेबस सेज इट गोज बियॉन्ड दैट एज वेल. ठीक है, इट गोज बियॉन्ड दैट एज वेल. So you are supposed to be very careful. Specifically, you have to keep a watch on what? You have to keep a watch on what are the current things that are in news here. And on the basis of that, you are supposed to devise your preparation. ठीक है, इसीलिए मैंने कहा गवर्नेंस की तैयारी बुक से नहीं हो सकती है. कोई भी एक स्पेसिफिक बुक से नहीं हो सकती. हाँ, कुछ चीजें आप बुक से पढ़ सकते हो. Like you can read about what it is, role, what is the need of it. No, this thing you can read. But when it comes to the more important aspects, you will have to refer to some other mechanisms as well. Okay. This would not be, no, for today. We cannot proceed forward for further, because I have talked about two parts of the syllabus. What we'll be doing is we will continue this in the next session. You will be informed about when we are scheduling the next session. As I had informed you, there is an issue, technical issue, so we cannot continue further. What we will be doing is in the next session we continue from this aspect. Okay, that is it for today. We'll meet in the next session.